all yours.
Okay. As a preliminary matter, this is Nikki Rowland, the chair of the Historic Structures Advisory Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Who we got? Brooke.
Yep.
There. Lucy, I saw you. Yep.
Yes.
Angus, you there?
I'm here. I'm just finishing my lunch.
Okay, thank you. And this is the staff. Holly, you're here?
Present.
There you are. Okay. So good afternoon. This open meeting of the Historic Structures Advisory Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus, in order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comments. For this meeting, the Historic Structures Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to share your screen on your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to comment, provide a comment, questions, or motion. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay. So we have members present. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
Thank you, Brooke. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Lucy. All in favor? Brooke?
Aye.
Lucy?
Yes.
Angus?
Aye.
And I'm in favor. So there are no minutes to approve. So we're going to go down to the agenda, and we have had a request to review number 34 Westchester Street first. So if nobody minds, we'll go ahead and do that one first. Then, and Holly, did you get that information ahead of time? We're doing 34 Westchester first.
Yep, I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
Is this the only one that we're going to do out of order? Just because I
think
have them in
so.
order, that's all.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Okay.
And I, as the chair, I'm going to abstain from this application. I've talked to Ben about this project, and I think that I will not participate in the discussion. So, Brooke, I'm going to let you take over.
All right. Has everyone had a chance to review this?
Or can I make a presentation at all?
You may.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for taking us out of order. I really appreciate it. As Holly mentioned, childcare is becoming an issue, and I got to run home to help my wife before she loses her marbles over these two kids. So anyway, but we're here today talking about 34 West Chester Street, the Richard Gardner House, 1722, a beautiful home of the lean-to style. The house has been, of the past century or so, been owned by the Woodall family. But as of October or early November, it was purchased by the Hagedorns. And now the Hagedorns are going through a process of kind of bringing the house back to a usable state. The Woodalls were longtime owners. They had left quite a little bit to be managed on the property. And it's a good time to kind of do a little bit of quite a bit of repair to the house, kind of some updating to the property. And one of the areas that we're looking at today is the rear L. And before I talk about the architectural stuff, the house is being held in a preservation restriction by Historic New England. Everybody involved in this project is reading that document hundreds of times over and over again. We're all becoming very familiar with the restriction itself. It's very helpful. It's also very restricting in what we can do to the property. The house is under very strict restrictions. But one area that is open for some change is the rear L. The rear L, there was a rear L on the building in historical photographs as in my document, but that original or partial original rear L was demolished at some point, and this rear L, as documented in the preservation restriction, was built in 1970. We are applying for window changes and a new chimney on the rear of it. This presentation or this proposal has been reviewed by Historic New England, although it is not, this rear L is not in their jurisdiction. It's clearly stated in the preservation restriction, but we presented to them just to make sure, and we received favorable approval, essentially, even though they can't technically give us approval because it's out of their jurisdiction, but they had no problem with our proposal. But a few small window changes, as you're looking at here on your screen, and then the chimney. The chimney is modeled after the chimney that was on the rear L in historical photos. It has that kind of little negative mass window there in it. And so we hope that if you have any questions, please let me know. But otherwise, we hope that you appreciate our proposal.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just wanted to let you know that I have reached out to Historic New England, and the lady who handles the preservation restrictions has communicated with me. So according to the preservation restriction, as Ben has alluded, changes to the rear L are allowable so long as they don't impact the main house and must be first approved by obviously the HDC. So just wanted to notate that for you.
All right, Lucy, would you like to go?
Yeah, I have actually, when Nancy Erickson rented that house, I was in that back L, which is the kitchen. Ben, I have a couple of questions. Are you using reclaimed brick and reclaimed glass in the windows?
We can use reclaimed brick and glass. I forget what my note is on the architectural plan. Is it? I do note the type of brick we're using, and if we need to change that note, Holly, if you could scroll through and find that. I'm trying to pull it up here on my screen. Brick chimney, brick to match the main mass. You know, the brick on the main is, doesn't really look like historic brick. So I wouldn't want to use like a new used kind of historic brick that doesn't match it.
Yeah.
But it's a great point. Holly, would you mind looking at the pictures of the house, the existing pictures? You'll probably have to go up in the document. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there it is. So it's not necessarily a historic brick, but we can definitely get reclaimed brick.
I was just wondering, so something isn't shiny new, and then as we all know, the mortar color usually on the island is, as Henry Variant once told me, is usually a little bit lighter because they mixed in clamshells. But getting back to the windows, I am looking, and I think that to be up to code, that the windows within a certain number of feet of doors have to have safety glass. So some of these windows, you could not use antique glass unless you get that fake stuff. But from the far end of the kitchen, on either the ones that flank the fireplace, those could be used, the north elevation.
Yep, we'd be happy to use antique glass. I think that's a great idea. The kitchen style inside, not that you guys care, but is going to be very period, with kind of cabinetry that looks more like furniture. It's going to have a very old feel. So I think the antique glass would be perfect.
Nice. Thank you.
Angus?
I agree with everything that's been discussed. I think it makes sense to have either reclaimed glass or restoration glass that matches the rest of the glass in the house, and matching the brick of the chimney and the mortar makes sense. I've seen countless examples of the L having a wood stove or something, because it was often, a detached or, appendage for kitchen, and there would be a wood stove. So the fireplace and the chimney make total sense. I think it's an appropriate alteration.
Chair has no concerns. I agree with what's been said. So I think, was there anyone else here that wanted to speak to this?
Mr. Chair, I just had a question of Ben. As far as this unique corbel on it, did that come from that photograph as an inspiration?
It's an exact replica, as best as we can see from the historic photograph.
Sweet. I'm gonna go see
It's
it.
on that document, yeah.
And thank you for providing these photographs.
No problem. They're great. They're really helpful. And they look great.
So this right here, or the other one?
Keep going up.
Haha. Okay. So you're kind of, looks like a fatter band, but I get it. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's that kind of, there's
Got
that.
a chimney cap
negative.
over it too.
Yeah. Okay.
There it is. Yep, you can see it. Yep.
All right. Are there any other
Thank you.
concerns or additions? Okay. Sounds like we're ready to move on. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Rowland?
Thank you, Brooke. So the number one item on the agenda is 39 Fair Street for a driveway apron.
So this is a before 1832 Greek revival built by Henry Chase. Even though there's nothing indicated on the application.
I have prepared a list of comments, and I think that's what I've done in the past. I'll read my comments. I didn't quite finish it, but I've got to start on the list, and then the rest of the board can comment on my comments. So, Holly, can you scroll up to the plan view of this? It's up or down?
Where is it you wanted to scroll up to?
Well, the showing existing and proposed. There we go.
Gotcha. Okay.
And there you go. Okay. It looks like this is replacing an existing walkway. The left drawing shows existing, and there's what's possibly identified as a herringbone patterned walkway, brick walkway around the side of the building. And that's going to go away, and this driveway is going to fill in a lot of that area. So my only comments on this was, first of all, that now this is going to be a bigger surface, and I'm not sure herringbone, we want to see herringbone on that big space. Well, actually, I take that back, because the pattern that's shown on this driveway is actually strips of brick with a shell, most of it being shell with a couple of brick strips. This, we've seen brick strips before used with cobblestones and brick, other hard surface material. I'm not sure I've seen it terribly often used in a shell driveway. And maybe others can comment on that. I'm not saying it's such a bad thing. It might just be unusual. So does anybody have any thoughts about that? Lucy, go ahead. You're muted.
There is a photograph there that I submitted. My question was, they have a propane tank or gas and 2 AC units in that area, plus possibly a window well. And I think we ought to know what they're going to do with that.
Yep.
Sorry, I couldn't get front on. There was a truck in the way. I think there's another shot that shows the AC units there. But that is the pathway.
Yikes.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's good. Thanks, Lucy.
All right. Well, may I go?
Yep, go ahead, Brooke.
All right. Well, I definitely think that any kind of approval should be predicated on, concealing the tank and the condenser. As far as the shell and brick strip, I don't know that there's a lot of mixed media on Fair Street, but if you look closely at 36 Fair Street, there is some kind of, there's a photo there, and it looks like it shows some kind of stone pavers with a brick surround. And I know that's not the same as what's being proposed, but it doesn't seem like it would be out of character to have another mixed media situation. So to that end, I don't have any concern. I think I kind of prefer to having it fully bricked over, like the photo that's being shown at 38 Fair. So those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Brooke. Angus?
I think I agree with everything that's been said. As far as mixing the materials, I think you're right, Maggie. Most of the time, these strips are brick and cobblestone, or cobblestone and grass, or brick and grass, but you don't usually see shell and brick. just logistically, the spreading of the shells over the strips, I think, would be happening all the time. But I'm leaning towards Brooke's opinion that it might just be a bit busy to try to, in this little area, to get the strips and the brick and have two different materials. So I guess I would rather, if they are two different materials, I'd rather see brick and stone, or cobblestone and grass, or some other combination other than shell and brick, shell and brick.
I'd almost rather see it all shell or all one material. But I hear what you're saying, Angus. Maybe just a slightly different proposal if they really want the strips. Just try something different. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to suggest that they try a different combination of materials other than shell and brick. And then to identify what they're proposing. One second, Lucy. Identify what they're proposing to do with the gas tank and the AC unit. Lucy, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I do. It doesn't indicate whether or not they're going to retain the path that goes towards the back of the house. And then I would also like to mention that if it is decided by the HDC that they do a combination brick and some other material for the driveway, that they reuse the existing brick that's on the property.
Thank you. Any other comments about that one? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next.
Yep.
Which is 134 Main Street. It's you, Ethan.
Good afternoon.
Ethan, go ahead. You want to?
Sure. So this is actually kind of a unique property. It's actually at one point was condoed, and what is currently or had been the driveway for a very long time is actually the road that is used to get to the rear, I guess, condos in the back, which are standalone houses. The lot has since been converted, or the front, to a sole ownership. So the access that's currently essentially the road is being abandoned. And this is a proposal or request for a new driveway and curb cut off the street. It's very similar to one that actually exists right next door. And you'll see some reference images there.
Ethan, have you, does this need to go to the traffic safety?
Yeah, I think there's a number of, certainly DPW, traffic safety, possibly even select board. Stephen Cohen's the attorney representing the project, and I'm just here to kind of assist with what we assume they're going to want HDC approval. So this is part of what I anticipate being a fairly involved process.
Okay.
And this is the second drive upon the lot?
So technically,
Mr. Chair?
yes, it's in the process of being converted to a single ownership and taken out of the condoing of like what's 5 dwellings essentially. So that other driveway will still exist to serve the rear units.
So you all are going to the planning board as well?
Correct. Yeah, correct. I think again, this is going to be a pretty involved sort of permitting process.
Thank you.
Hey, Brooke?
Oh, wait, hang on. I got it. I just answered my question. Sorry.
Do you have anything else to say anyways?
I'm familiar with this property and I'm familiar with the situation. And I think that there I think there's at least, I think there's one or two driveways on that side of Main Street that are, very similar in terms of their size and how they function. I think one of them is at 121 or 122. So I don't think this is an uncommon feature. So, other than how it's executed, I have no concerns about the fact of the driveway in that spot.
My comments about this one were the fact that it's got the retaining wall across the front of the property on the roadside. And now that we're turning the drive in, there's a retaining wall, as you see right there on the left, as you go up the driveway. And that'll be brick and match the one on the front. And I think that's a logical way to handle it. So it's kind of a lot of brick retaining. And I was just wondering if maybe that could be stepped a little differently. I don't know Lucy or Angus, do you have any comments about, or Brooke for that matter, the proposed retaining that we'll see along the sides? Go ahead, Angus. You're muted.
I think all the materials are appropriate, but it just seems like a lot of brick. I think I'd rather see like a field stone or some kind of stacked stone for the retaining wall if the whole driveway is brick. But the brick from the retaining wall to the house and from the street to the back retaining wall and the retaining wall being bricks just seems over bricking.
Yeah, agreed.
What I was thinking too. And then, Ethan, I assume there will be a similar retaining wall on the right side of the drive?
Correct. So, and just to kind of follow up on the comment on the material, I share your concern with just just general quantity of brick. There is an existing dry stacked fieldstone retaining wall that already exists on the property. So, right essentially on that upper side where there's that hedge. So we could actually continue it down and then tie it into the brick retaining wall at the sidewalk. On the house side, we definitely be interested in entertaining different options for the material. Although there it might make more sense to kind of keep it all brick where it's right next to the house as the foundation's already bricked, and we can kind of tie in sort of planting kind of beds and stuff. Maybe a little bit more cohesively if we kind of keep it brick there, but certainly we're open to exploring other material options.
Thank you. So we might end up with brick on one side, but stone on the other?
Potentially. I mean, from my kind of take, anything that's sort of like kind of tied to the house might be more appropriate as brick. And then sort of the on the other side, I guess that would be that's the west side. Against the neighbor's property, maybe that's where it might be more appropriate to have continue the dry stack fieldstone wall. But again, we can look at that. I mean, certainly we don't want to kind of clash the materials for sure. But I do share your comment about just the overall amount of brick.
So the retaining on the left side near the house, that doesn't really interface with the foundation at all. It still stays off the foundation.
Correct. It would be, yeah. It's not like you're pulling in directly next to the foundation. Although to just kind of soften it, I think we'd want to kind of build in some kind of hardscaping, kind of planting beds, essentially.
Right. I agree with that. But I'm just saying it's not really connecting to the existing brick foundation of the house.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's not totally tied in. It's just a little bit more, you would sort of see it within the context of the existing foundation more than you would the wall on the opposite side.
Yep. Lucy, do you have anything to
Yeah, I would like to, first of all, to point out that there is another parking spot on that property in the rear. And also from Main Street, there's a significant elevation change. The steps up are exactly 4 steps. Also, the plan does not show a window well on the front of the house to the right of the front steps. And that's all I have to point out. There are photographs.
Is there any proposed change to the window well in the front of the house?
No, so yeah, they're sort of shallow window wells as the windows are largely above the elevation of the sidewalk as they are. So we're not proposing any changes to the house.
Would it be asking a lot, Ethan, to redo that whole brick? And turn that into stone? So it's a continuous wrapping back?
I'm sorry, so the wall, so all the retaining walls out of stone?
Yeah, I mean, what you're left with is about a 6-foot length of brick. And if you end up making it stone on.
Well, it does, I mean, it does tie into that brick retaining wall. It does continue to 138 kind of up the street.
I see. Yep.
So, I mean, I think the owner would, I don't think they're wedded to the brick. We just kind of use that because that's sort of what's there. I think they'd be open to using a different material, say the stone, for instance.
Ethan, how much of a hurry are you in on this one? Can you wait another meeting?
Yeah, like I said, I think this is going to be kind of a long regulatory process. I mean, certainly we'd love to get, keep the ball rolling. But is there anything that I can kind of provide to give you guys a little bit more info?
I think we're bringing up some question about material options, and I'm just, instead of us suggesting what you do, maybe you come back and,
Sure.
and bring some other options to us. Does that sound good?
Okay. Yeah, and just so I can just kind of keep the owner up to date. In general, there isn't necessarily opposition to the concept itself. It's more just understanding what more appropriate mix of materials might be.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Lucy's comment regarding there's a driveway space in the back, or Lucy, are you concerned about putting in a driveway here, or?
Well, I just wanted to point that out, that they already did have parking. In fact, they have a white car in the back. That if Ethan does come back, I think it would be helpful if we had treatments of driveways in the immediate area. There is one in there in the nearby that does have that elevation change, significant elevation change. And if we could compare that and see how that was handled. I don't remember anything about retaining walls, but that I think would give us another perspective. Thank you.
Great. Ethan, you good?
Yeah, I think that's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, we can certainly do that. We did just provide a single image for that. I think that driveway that we are all sort of referring to, which is at 138 Main, which has a very similar condition. But I'll certainly provide more photos. In addition, I'm sure there's other driveways further up and down the street that might be useful to show as well.
Thanks, Ethan.
Great. Thank you all.
Yep. So 10 Cherry Street.
Actually, I'm sorry, just as a moment or point of clarification. So would this go to HDC for comment as well and then come back? I mean, they might not approve
Yes.
it. They probably wouldn't approve it. Okay, so we'll get comments from HDC tonight.
Correct.
And
And
then,
maybe approve it. I mean, they may just maybe be fine with it.
yeah, who knows? All right.
They may, but your long process with the other boards would kind of elongate the process anyway. So.
Ethan, before you get off, thanks so much for coming and for your time. As far as materials, the reason I brought that up is just the magnitude of all the brick. And I don't think it makes sense to have one side be brick and the other side to be stone. And it seems like the stone would fit in well with the planting bed and sort of be more of a landscape feature rather than part of the structure that the brick foundation is. So one option, if you end up doing another option to look at, would be great. Just both sides, basically all the retaining to be stone.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Angus. Okay. Cherry Street, number 10.
Solar. So the front house.
Is this one go to it? Yeah, is Karen
I
on?
don't see. I don't see Karen on. No.
Okay.
This is a per the NHL data. I didn't see if there was an HDC survey or not. It's an early 1900 cottage. And the lean-to was in a later edition.
Is there anybody online at the moment that would like to speak to this from the public? If not, I'll move on to the board. Lucy, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the same comment that I gave in the last application we have for solar, is that I think that I would like to see that when these applications come before us and the HDC, that it is indicated that the whole installation end panel does not exceed a certain measurement, and that they are black or dark charcoal.
Can you clarify that measurement comment? What was that again?
So what I would like to see is when the solar panel is put on the roof, however it is attached, the attachment mechanism and the panel itself does not exceed a certain height. In other words, someone could come in and say, okay, the panel only measures 1.5 inches, and then I don't know anything about this. Brooke could answer this, or, but they could put on some bracket that's 6 inches high.
Right.
This was a question for the application next to 134 Main Street that we just looked at. And it was, I think that they said that the panels would project 4 inches off of the plane of the roof, panel plus standoffs. But that as long as it was drawn away from the sides, then it was acceptable. So I think with this application, it doesn't look like there's going to be any visibility, maybe from Madison Court, but I think that there's certainly room to pull the panels in from the gable end on the structure. And also I noticed that they are asking for a roofing material change. They have the roof as gray. We could certainly ask for it as black.
Good point. Okay. So black asphalt roof shingles, and then if they can move the panels away from the edge.
Yeah, maybe 6 inches from the end of the gable, just so it doesn't catch your eye as you're driving up Cherry Street.
And not to stand proud more than, what did you say, 4 inches, Brooke?
I think it was 4 inches was the other one from 132 Main Street, but I don't remember exactly, but I know it wasn't like 6 inches. I think it was pretty low.
I just think that we ought to be very careful that we close a loophole on this.
Well, so how about this? We say not to exceed 4 inches, but encourage the HDC to bring it up as a question for the applicant tonight. I mean, I think that they can certainly ask them about that. And, I'm sure that the commissioners will say, well, can you do it less than 4 inches? Certainly Val Oliver will have a concern that, she's expressed this before, and she might say, well, can you do it less than 4 inches? And so we just have to make sure that it gets brought up as a point of discussion.
Yep. Good. Angus?
I agree with everything that's been said. Yeah, it's I'm looking at one photo from Cherry Street. It looks like something is sticking up above the roof, and I'm wondering if that, yeah, in that middle picture where the arrow is pointing. right before you get to the gable roof, to the right of the arrow, it looks like something's sticking up.
That's a
I'm wondering-
gable. That's a gable in the distance.
Oh, okay.
If you look at it, if you look at the other photo from the back, and you'll see the existing panels,
Yeah.
I think you'll see that there's that mass to the left of those panels. And I think what you're seeing when you look through is that gable.
All to say, I like the idea of it being as low profile as possible and matching panel color to roof or vice versa.
Okay, so I have probably not visible, but nevertheless, change to black roof shingles, move panels away from the edge as much as possible, and low profile not to exceed 4 inches or so above the roof. Anything else on that one?
Sounds good to
Sounds good.
me.
Next. Team Harbor View Way. Educational panel.
So this is a town project, town admin. And I think Janet Schulte said she was gonna try to attend, and then
See,
I'm
maybe
here.
another person. Oh,
I'm
hey
here.
Janet,
Hi, how are you?
perfect.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm
Good,
here with my
thanks, how are you?
colleague Leslie Ann McGee from the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. This educational panel is part of a regional program that's sponsored by the Blue Economy Foundation, which is part of the Cape Cod Chamber. And they're putting these panels around the Cape, the Vineyard, Nantucket, and the South Shore to show the economic impact of life by the water. And so our panel will talk about the history and the future of the blue economy from a viewpoint on Children's Beach or on the sidewalk on Children's Beach. So the panel is about 8 by 8. It's made out of a heated or a treated wood that fades to gray. It looks just like the shingles, and it has a blue steel border around it. And I think if you go down one more there, you'll see an image of it. It's not that big, but there's another one further down too. I think it's like page 8 or something.
This one.
It's this one here that's circled. That will be and it will have a view, so that the idea is you have a vision of the harbor, and we'll be focusing a story that people will pick up on a little sign that's, you can see there on the left of the panel, that will direct them to a QR code and a website to talk about the blue economy as it relates to Nantucket. And it's located right at the end near the playground on that sidewalk. And it will have, it does not have a bench on it, just has that window. I think that's right. Is that right, Leslie? Ann? Maybe she's not on.
Yep, she's on.
Yep.
So we can't hear her.
She said she had some phone problem.
Leslie, you want to comment? She's not coming through.
Yeah, she's unmuted, but we can't hear her. That was like me this morning.
Sorry, I'm here. I apologize. I'm computer limited today.
No worries.
No worries.
Leslie,
Okay,
did you want to
can you
add
hear
to
me now?
what you said?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. I had a computer meltdown this morning, so I'm on my. Not the way I like to do this, so I apologize. But there it is. Yeah, so we're really excited about this project. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We're really excited about this project. Nantucket is one of 10 towns that is involved in it. It is funded by the Seaport Economic Council. It builds awareness of past, present, and future blue economy to not only connect the general blue economy to Nantucket's very own angle on the blue economy. And really what these are doors or front porches to the blue economy, and they're very clearly designed such that you're framing a view of a particular issue.
Leslie, I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't quite hear you.
was shown. They are standard look all across the region, and each town that is involved in the network got to pick its own kit of parts that they wanted to use at its site. Nantucket has chosen to use the simple picture frame panel. The original rendering on the top of that package is actually the born rendering that's going to be used out at the site. But they're all a little bit different in every place. Same sort of part, same color, same thermally modified wood that ages to gray. But this is the one that the folks in Nantucket have chosen to use. So when you go there, you'll have a responsive website that you'll be linked to different stories that the town will be sharing with us to include. It's really to get not only visitors, but also local folks just excited about where their place is in the rural economy and what the future may look like and what the present looks like.
So, Leslie, it was kind of hard to hear what you were saying, but I think I got a little of it. I do have a couple of questions for you or Janet. You mentioned, Janet, that it's made from wood frame, but it's wrapped in steel, or is it aluminum or something? It's like a blue metal surface?
I believe that's steel, yes.
Steel. I guess my first question regarding this is it possible just to have the frame and structure made out of natural wood?
So this is Leslie Ann. So it's a powder coated steel. It's all the other coatings across the region will be colored in a hail navy to satisfy the historic requirements in the rest of the region. We have offered the fabricators offered to do the powder coated in Nantucket to match one of your historic colors. I believe it's Hamilton blue. Correct me if I'm wrong, Janet. But
That's
they
correct.
will all be the powder coated steel with the thermally modified wood. That's the way the whole network is built.
Would you entertain the gray color rather than blue?
Any color you would like us to use within your panel or palette is fine with us. We're totally fine with it.
Okay.
You're
now-
the only location that we're changing the color for, but just to make sure we have one on the island, we're really excited to honor whatever historic colors you want us to use.
And the window is an important feature of this. You need that upper structure rather than just the lower wall. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, they're picture frames, essentially is what they are.
Will there be things hanging within that frame, or is it really just just a frame? Okay. Lucy, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
I took some pictures of that area. I think the materials for this are totally inappropriate. If you look at the design, there's very few areas where there is any information. I think this classifies as signage. Freestanding signs, I don't believe we approve like this anymore. I think the placement of the location is inappropriate. The scale doesn't fit in with the nearby playground. I don't see why this should be there or why we need this. It's not Nantucket style. If anybody wants to know about the history of Nantucket, the museum is right around the corner. This looks like, to put it bluntly, to me, this looks like something that is a pop-up in a convention center. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. Brooke, go ahead.
Yeah, is this a temporary installation?
Good question.
No,
This is a permanent installation?
I think its lifespan is 25 years. Is that right, Leslie Ann?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm definitely not for it, especially not located there. I think that it's too prominent of a location as shown on the site, and it's decidedly modern, especially for that area. I think it will be a real architectural counterpoint to some of the informality that's there. I agree with Lucy.
Thanks, Brooke. Angus?
I agree with what's said. I appreciate the point of the project. I think it might be worth looking at the existing structures and trying to formulate a view with what's existing and provide the information that you're looking for in a way that's more sensitive to the surroundings, if that's at all possible.
Yeah, I mean, the town has the opportunity to pick any of the kit parts they would like. Some towns have multiple kit parts. The only restrictions that Seaport Economic Council has is that it has to be located on public property. We will actually be making these kits available after the initial grant to private organizations to purchase kit parts if they like for their location. But at this point, we're looking just at public locations. And that's true for the whole network. So all the other locations have already been finalized, and this has all been sent out to bid already as well.
I'm thinking about the platform stage that exists there or some other structure. We're really, that's just part of the guidelines for everything in the town is for it to be natural, and there isn't, the frame just doesn't appear to be natural in any way.
You know, I've got a thought here.
Brooke?
Yeah, there's a ramp that goes up to the little restaurant there. That's town-owned property. Why not use that ramp to make this part of an arbor structure and build something into that ramp that, you know, you can still put your QRC code there. You can still create a frame around it. But I think, you know, to make your point, but I just don't see the reason why this would have to be right on the edge of the beach, right in front of the swing set at the Children's Beach, and definitely not looking like something that we'd ordinarily see. So
We totally understand that. We are somewhat
done differently, but you know, I mean, is this something that we have to do? I don't think so.
Nope.
So, you know, you got to sell us on allowing it to be there in the first place.
Yep. So just to back up a tiny bit, I mean, we are other than being on a public property and making sure we're framing some kind of view, we are site agnostic, meaning the call went out to the towns about maybe a year ago for prospective sites. We sorted them and went back to the towns and said, yep, you know, we're interested in working with you. And this is the site that the town has come up with. We are certainly willing to pivot. And in fact, if you look at the kit of parts that are, you know, available in one of the documents that you were just had up, we are perfectly happy for you to change configurations or styles. There are places that have essentially a walk-up ramp. And in fact, we provide that. We pay for this whole fabrication and installation. We have places where you can walk up a ramp onto a spot and then walk back down a ramp. It's all ADA compliant. And we actually do have a frame that's on the kit of parts that's completely open and it has no sides or benches or anything in it. Certainly happy to
for a second.
pivot.
My
Excuse
screen
me?
share, Holly. All right, can you see that?
No,
No. All right, that one.
I do have photographs somewhere.
All right, how about this?
Yeah.
All right, see my hand moving around? So that's where you're proposing it. The spot that I'm
I'm
thinking
sorry, I
about-
can't.
All right, hang on. How about that? Can you see that?
Not anymore.
No, but I'm sure Janet can explain it to me later.
Brooke, you've lost the image.
Oh, you have?
It's showing the agenda.
Oh, all right, hang on. How about that?
Yep.
All right, so this orange mark, that's how I'm reading this, that's where this kiosk is going. And so what I'm thinking is right over here, there's a ramp. And this thing could be built right into that spot. And it would make more sense in that location than front and center on the beach.
Yes, thanks, Brooke. I agree. I think the location is rather problematic. I think it's much too prominent and kind of takes away from the point of that whole area being so natural and on the beach. So we'd like to see it, if it exists, somewhere where it doesn't stand out so strongly, maybe up next to a building or near a building or another structure.
And it still frames that view, Leslie, that we were talking about in the description. It just set back several yards.
Yeah, I think.
Whatever works for you guys.
And I think that we're still going to be concerned about the material and the color. You know, this at the moment, it's looking like a fairly foreign element for Nantucket. And I think we just need to see something that's looking a little bit more natural and something that we might, you know, that doesn't stand out as much, that might fit into the landscape or surrounding infrastructure of the neighborhood a little more. So can we ask you to
Yeah, I
come
mean,
up with other alternatives?
we can't come with you with another alternative to the design. We can come back and go to the so we recently, the County of Barnstable, through the chamber, recently awarded this fabrication contract to a company in Norwood called Mystic Scenic. Mystic Scenic does, I mean, they do Olympics, they do all kinds of stuff. And they said, you know, they could look into what it would cost to do your unit in wood. Same design, same structure, just use instead of the powder coated steel, we could try to do it in wood. I don't know what the cost of that would be, but we would go to them and ask them. But in terms of the shape and the size, and they would all remain the same as the kit of parts. So if you're interested in that, we certainly can go do that.
This is Angus again. That's kind of where I was headed with my suggestion, was if instead of powder coated steel, if it were mahogany or cedar 4x4s. And if you needed to keep the theme of that blue, you know, maybe that's a little inset, you know, 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch or 1 inch painted line or inset line that goes you know, on one side of the frame or the other. But unless you're really looking for it, you wouldn't see it, but it would tie it in with your other frames. But from every other angle, it would just look like natural posts in a frame.
Yep. They do have small placards that essentially sit on the frame and go down. I believe they're in the specs, but I think they're not bigger than 12 inches or 18 inches. They fold over the frame and down. There's nothing in the window itself. There's a viewfinder, but that's it.
You know, Holly, I'm also kind of feeling that this is also definitely something that should be reviewed by the sign committee. It's feeling a lot more like a sign than a structure.
Oh, it's both.
It's both.
It's a kiosk.
I
and a
can
sign.
recommend that. I can recommend that to the HDC when this does get viewed.
Yeah, I think that it would be good to go into their purview also. Any other comments about this? Lucy, go ahead.
Yeah. There are 2 photographs of Children's Beach area that Holly might want to bring up. But I'd also like to point out, I was looking at the design of these plans. The bottom panels go up to 3 feet 6 inches. As we know, that area is mostly infested with little kids. That's awfully high. Doesn't seem even appropriate for the playground. But Holly, if you could bring up those photographs, it would show the area of where they're proposing to put this.
Can I ask just a basic question about this project?
Sure.
the point of the structure basically just to hold a sign or a couple of signs? I mean, what is the real point of this structure?
So interestingly, and I can have Janet send it to you, but interestingly, the structures themselves are actually, the precedents for the structures are the life-saving huts that were on the outer beaches of the Cape. And, that have done over the time had sort of those shapes. These are all designed by Cambridge 7, which is the architectural firm that designed the Gloucester Harbor Walk. And in this case, they are, then modified to be the artist shacks and then taken from that, sort of a modern view on that historical structure. So actually, in our proposal, we do actually have a pretty heavy historic background on how we derive the design.
Well, that sounds maybe appropriate for the Cape. I'm not sure if the relevance fits with Nantucket in terms of the beach shacks, especially in this location. But I guess back to my original question, is the point just to display a sign with a QR code or something, or is there more interactive use of this structure?
Yeah, so they are intended to be contemplation points. They're intended to be activators, similar to what you might see a lot of the, and I'm not an architect, so bear with me on the explanation, but a lot of the precedent comes from the similar type of forms that you see in Norway and Scandinavia, where they actually take their outside as a place to activate not only for their day, but also for contemplation. So it's a bit of that as well. And I'm not doing it justice. So, but they really are front porches on the economy, on the blue economy. Their connection to water, our linkage to place. They're far more than a kiosk.
I'm just wondering.
They're not intended to be a sign.
Well, yeah, maybe there's another way of conveying this message than to put up a structure. There's the restaurant building, and then there's the bandstand structure in the background. Can the signs be displayed in a different way rather than creating a structure to hang them on?
Yeah, the signage is not really the intent of the project. It's not a sign project. So it's kept as minimal as possible. I believe the design has like less than 80 words or something on the plaque.
Hang on, I'd like, I think that there's a lot going on here. I don't know that we're gonna resolve this in the sitting of the HSAB. I do think that the HDC needs to look at this. I also think that we've got a pile of applications that we need to look at. So I'd like to propose that we move forward. I think we've said our piece about this. I think that it's not clear why we need this in the first place. I think we're clear that the site is inappropriate. I think we're clear that the structure itself is inappropriate. So I think that we can take that and move forward. Is that all right, Mr. Chair?
I hear what you're saying, Brooke. And Lucy, did you just want to add something brief to that?
Well, I was just going to ask if we were supposed to pay for this, but
No,
Okay.
no, this will be
Right.
gifted to the town.
I think I guess we've made our points relatively clear. So thank you for your proposal.
Sure.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. That was interesting. 48 Orange Street.
Driveway and a patio for a circa 1840 Greek revival.
Okay. I have a couple of just general comments about this one. There's a fence going across the face of this property. They've got pictures, I think, of every place but the actual site. Unless I'm missing something. Lucy, did you take a picture of this one?
I did.
Oh, good.
The fence is not on the plan, but it is on the street.
Say that again?
Holly has two pictures. And you're right, Mickey, the fence is not on their proposed plan.
Yeah, they need to tell us what's going to go on with that fence, because that's obviously going to change. Also, I thought that they don't have a lot of detail on their site plan. And this is a lot of brick. It's a 20 by 20. Do there other photographs show driveways of this size? I guess there's some.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah. All right. Well, they they should identify the brick pattern. I think it should be running bond parallel to the street. I'd almost love to see, in this case, maybe some variation in material instead of just so much brick. But I'd like to hear what other people have to say about this one too. Lucy?
I'd like to know what they're going to do about the fence, and I think it should come back.
Yeah, me too. But in the meantime, should we give them other comments about the material and layout? Brooke, do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, I mean, looking at 41 Orange Street across, right across the street, and a couple of the adjacent properties, I don't think this is atypical for the area. I agree with you about having the brick running parallel to Orange Street. Definitely would like to see a fence plan, and at least an elevation of the fence that's being proposed. Does it say on the application if it's a type 2 or one of those? No, it doesn't even say that. So yeah, definitely some clarification on the fence, but otherwise, like, I have no concerns with this.
Okay. Angus?
I agree with what's been said about the fence and the driveway material.
Okay. All right, so the driveway's probably fine, but we just need to know what's going on with the fence. Anything else? No? Moving on.
Nope, no concerns.
17 Lincoln.
Hi,
Hi, Lisa.
how are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
This will need some explanation.
Yeah, this is a house that was built in 1990 originally. It was actually one of the first projects that Ray was working on when we moved to Nantucket in 91. It was under construction. Bruce Killen built it. And there's been very little change to it other than interior changes since it was originally built. The new owner was going to renovate the house. We already have approval to basically lift the building and put a new foundation under it to make it more level with Lincoln Circle. And then when they went into and did some of the interior demo, they found a bunch of mildew, rot. The windows are in terrible shape, and they're making significant enough changes to it that it became clear that it just made sense to probably start from scratch because the house isn't in great shape to begin with. So the new design is not going to differ what we already have approved at the HDC at this point. So that's the next application, which looks very similar to this, which is the demo of the existing house. So that's basically the scope.
Okay. Well, my, of course, initial reaction is that it seems like a rather drastic move to tear down a huge structure and replace it again. It's a struggle to think about the resources there. Not really our purview, so I don't really want to dwell too much on that issue. Anybody have any comments about this one?
I mean, this looks like a like-kind replacement. Is that correct, Lisa?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
It's been approved once. It was built once. It's kind of a cool building too for that area. I think is a lot of
Well,
fun.
it's interesting because I don't think the HGC would probably approve a lot of elements on it today, particularly the turret. But I think at the time, when the HGC was a little bit more interested in sort of different stylistic expression, they were able to get away with this. This was back in, Jenny Shakespeare was the principal that Ray was working with at Design Associates when this was designed. So it is an interesting area, and I think it's appropriate for that, certainly for that area, for the cliff.
Okay, Angus? Still there?
What year was this built?
91. We moved in 91 and it was under construction.
It kills me to think that something 30 years old has to be demolished because it's rotten. I mean, it was a architect designed and one of the best, leading builders on the island who built it. And I'm sure the best.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's.
It just makes me wonder, what's the lifespan of the new stuff that is being built?
5 weeks, dude. 5.
Well, I think when you look at it, I mean, things are different. There was a 1/2-inch plywood used for subfloor in this. The insulation is much better. The windows are much tighter. I mean, there have been a lot of improvements, as I think you all know, since 1990 in terms of keeping buildings tighter and being built better. Having said that, I think once you get into making too many changes to a building, you do hit that point where it doesn't make sense. And because this building and the windows are not in good shape. I mean, the windows certainly 30 years with a pine window, they're probably not in great shape. So
I'm just curious, what were the windows?
they were pine Marvins.
Wow.
So, the goal now is to replace them with mahogany windows, things that will last longer. Particularly in that environment where it's, obviously very brutal.
Well, I mean, other than just the material waste, I don't have any. I mean, it's not like we're losing a historic building here. So
Right.
I don't have any issues as far as that's concerned.
Thanks, Angus. Lucy, did you want to comment on this one?
Yeah, I agree with Angus. I would like to see dates on these applications. Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize. I just emailed my office and said, it probably would have been good for you to put in the original drawings and the original building permit. And I
I
will.
see a lot of applications without dates, and it's a burden on Holly to have to dig this information up.
Yeah, I apologize. I just asked Tammy to email it all to you.
On that note, Lisa, obviously you mentioned that Bruce Killen built it in 91 and obviously Ray was involved. I'm curious, there must have been a structure on the lot previously, because the NHL data also indicates a 1909/1991, which usually I think there was
might have been. There was
a
I'm going to forget the guy's name that owned this whole property, because we built this originally for Peter Vernon, who then he bought the lot to the west of it, and we built that house for him. And this might have had a building on it back in the early 90s or the late 80s when they did this. I just don't remember. That was 30 years ago. I can't remember. I can ask Ray what the guy's name was that owned this property, if it matters. It was like Governor something, or it was an odd name. So there might have been a building there, and I could ask Ray if he remembers.
So I think maybe what Holly could be implying too is that building part of this massing?
No.
Okay.
No, this was a completely new structure.
Okay.
This may be the same site as the building that was an annex to the original Bee Cliff Inn.
You know, really this far down, because there was the Seacliff Inn, I know at around 41A. I did a project and that was an annex to the Seacliff. Did they go that far? I didn't know.
Yeah, I had some history on, I think it was either this lot or the next one in the, Scapes might have owned it, or was that next door? I'm not really sure if it's the same property. And
Yeah,
anyway, there was a building that got torn down in the probably mid 80s, early 80s maybe. I forget exactly when. And it was a kind of a big old structure that was part of the Seacliff Inn, I'm almost positive. So anyway, this is definitely not it, or anything to do with it. So it doesn't sound like you're getting a lot of concern with us regarding the actual change. So let's move on
Okay.
to the new dwelling.
you'll see the new dwelling looks just like the old dwelling with a couple of minor changes.
So you've already had some revisions approved, and that's what you're going to be building.
Well, yeah, there might be some further revisions, but we thought that the best way to do this would be to come back and at least get the new structure
Mhm.
that had been previously approved as a new build,
Okay,
just to keep it clean.
that's fine. So
So
you
what
may
we're
be
asking
coming
for
back later.
now have already been approved by the H. Yeah, yeah. We just thought it would get too complicated if we tried to incorporate other changes into this application, and it seemed better to keep it cleaner this way. So you will see us again very soon.
Okay. Does anybody have any concerns with this one?
Not at all. Are we approving windows on this as well? Because I just
Yep.
would want to make a contingency that whatever we approve would have true divided light windows.
They don't have them now. The building doesn't
Right.
have them now.
But okay, you were going to go with mahogany windows though?
Yep,
Okay, so it would be like mahogany wood SDLs?
yep,
Okay,
custom.
fine. Yeah, I just don't want to see the Anderson vinyl jam
Oh, no,
on
we're
this
not gonna
thing.
do that.
That would be a crime.
No, absolutely not.
Right, that's it. That's all I got.
Angus or Lucy, do you have any concerns?
What if this is on the table?
It's
It's a
just
new-
the larger drawing, Angus, is what we're asking to rebuild essentially. It's already been approved by the HGC with the changes to the windows. And we're just asking you guys to approve it as a new build as opposed to what had been approved before,
Renovations. Yeah.
which was renovation.
I like the benches at the doorway, but I kind of liked the rail of the old above the front door. But
Above the front roof.
I know that ship has already sailed. So no, I don't have any issues with it being reviewed in a different way.
Okay. All right, I think we're good with that one. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, thanks. I'll see you guys. Are you guys gonna keep going to the end of the agenda or?
Wow. We're gonna try.
Okay, so I'll see
Yeah,
you in a
we
bit
have
then.
till 3 o'clock, so.
Okay, well, maybe I won't see you later. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thanks. All right, so moving on to 37 Indian.
A lot of applications.
Hi, guys, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Tori.
Hi.
Hi, Dory.
Thank you, Tori, for putting the date on here. You get a gold star.
Whatever I could do.
This is at the back of the lot.
Yes, all the way back to the right if you're looking at the front door.
And is there any kind of fence at any point in that?
Yes, I believe I submitted photos. There is a gate with an arbor and a type 2 picket fence painted white at the top of the driveway, and then you walk into the backyard area to the
I
right of the
don't see-
house from that.
I don't see any photos.
They're not included in this PDF. Yeah, they're not included. So it must have been a separate
Okay.
PDF if you did that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
If there's some sort of screening, I mean, it's cedar, so I'm fine with it regardless.
Anybody else?
I'm fine with it.
I'm
Angus?
fine.
Me too. Looks good, Tori. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
21 milk. Hi, Twig.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Do you want to introduce this one?
Sure. Essentially, what we're proposing to do is to the east, a art studio addition, which is 14 by 16. Excuse me. And to the west, a master bedroom, master closet addition, which is 8 by 20. On that particular addition, I just proposed to do a shed, which I think is within keeping and probably would have been done historically. On the art studio on the east side, I set it back as far from the street to make it, excuse me, look like an ancillary barn or pen or something. We are not affecting the existing structure, the old structure at all. We're actually adding to additions that Bruce Killen did in the 90s. Essentially the original 1750 structure remains untouched, which I'm mandating throughout the project, other than we're fixing an interior stairway. So the new additions are proposed to be attached to existing additions that were added in 1996, we believe. We're not 100% sure, but in the 90s. And I'm pretty sure it was Bruce. I can tell his work.
Okay. Sandy Kendall was involved in this building for a while too, as I recall.
So maybe it was Sandy. It has some Bruce details, but
Yeah. I had just a couple comments and then I'll turn it over to the rest of the group. But my initial feeling, Holly, stay on that east elevation. Go, there you go. You know, the new addition that you're putting on is kind of a duplicate of what's existing on that east now. And personally, I think I would rather see, and maybe now, Holly, if you can go to the south, that might actually help. That, I'd like to see the roof of that's the north, that's fine. I'd like to see the roof of the addition that you're adding step down, you know, like additive massing, have it, you know, a couple of feet or so lower than the addition that it's adding onto. And I know you've got it stepped back a little bit. It still feels like it's, you know, it doesn't break down. We like to see additive matting kind of step and step and step. So, you know, I thought maybe a narrower gable with a shed off the back. I'm not sure how important the roof lines, critical they are to you as a design. But it just seemed that, Holly, can you go to the south elevation, the street side? There you go. So that kind of shows what I'm talking about in terms of it being sort of just an extension of the same height as the current addition. So I would love to see that break down a little bit lower. And then on the north view where you have a gable just kind of on the back, that to me, that looked just a little unusual. Maybe you're trying to get more lighter windows in, but it's kind of just turning a gable on a flush wall, like proposed on the north.
okay.
You see what I mean there?
The reason for those particular windows on the east and the north are for natural light because it is a studio.
Yep.
The proximity to the neighbors and the privet, et cetera, pretty much dictates what we'd like to do size-wise. So I'm not clear what you're saying about lowering the roof. You know, turning the gable main gable 90 degrees towards the street didn't really look appropriate, and it didn't look like it would have been an ancillary building. So I'm just not clear what you meant by lowering.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting you turn the gable on the south side. I'm just saying that leave it as its kind of existing form that you're proposing, but just drop the ridge a little bit so it feels like a lower addition to another addition that's already there.
I got you. So in other words, the fascia and eaves would be at a lower height than the existing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even necessarily saying that the fascia and eaves need to drop, although that would be nice, but just the ridge, because it's reading as a, you know, essentially a duplicate mass
Mhm.
stuck to the east. And I would like to see it to be just a smaller feeling mass. However that can be accomplished.
Okay, but would you have a problem if the roof pitch changed though?
Well, it's separated. You don't really see them parallel to each other too much. That may not be, I guess I was going to, you know, just suggesting that maybe a narrower gable, because it's still, what is that, 18, 16 or 18? What's the length along the east?
Yes, that would be 16, not north to south or south to north.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get too much into the details, but just to try to drop the ridge, just so it feels lower, I guess. Is what I would say.
Okay, I mean, it is slightly lower, and that was my main reason for also stepping the building back from the street, is to give it the less of a mass as you stand in the street.
Right. And I think that those are good choices. Anybody else? Brooke, see your hand up.
Yeah. I don't think you can drop the ridge without dropping the fascia. I think you will see both the gable ends coming up Milk Street. So I think that if the fascia dropped a foot and the ridge dropped a foot, it would look like truly like an additive mass. I realize it's stepped back, but I drive by this building, as everybody does, all the time, and I definitely think that would it would be a helpful change to the elevations.
I guess
I agree.
I agree with the point being made. Hey, Twig, it's good to see you. Especially with that stair going down on the south wall, I think that could drop maybe even 2 feet, you know, or 1.5 feet, and you wouldn't lose anything. And I'm not sure that you have to keep, unless it's just part of the structure, I'm not sure you have to keep the roof line starting at the same place. Like if it dropped a couple of feet on the south end, maybe it doesn't even need to drop any on the north end.
Right, like a salt box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I would like to see that. Facing backwards.
Yeah, no backwards salt boxes.
Yeah.
No, this would be easy to accomplish. And
Yeah, I think the plate in general could drop, and you know, the main mass and the secondary masses all have the same pitch. So I'd almost rather see it stay the same pitch and drop as much as you can at the plate rather than dropping the pitch.
No, I agree. It's something I'm after.
Okay. Lucy?
I'm fine with everybody's comments.
Okay. All right. Clear enough, Twig?
Yes. So should I still, you recommend this to HDC? And I still go to HDC?
It'll still go to
It
them.
would, yeah, it'll still go to them. And more than likely, it's not gonna get heard tonight with the amount that's on their agenda. Typically, it might be later in the week. Thursday, or it could be even next week, just depending on how their agendas go. But it will be recommended to them as far as review with their comments.
Okay, so your comments will be to them. That'll be great. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Greg.
Good to
So
see you.
nice.
Greg.
nice
Hey,
look-
take care.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Greg. Next is 40 Jefferson.
So Matt emailed me. He was waiting, but he had to go to another meeting. So he is not here to represent, but that's okay.
I love shingle flares. I'm fine.
Yeah, hang on, Brooke. There's a little bit more to it than a shingle flare. Not much though. It looks like he's just adding, he's dropping the shingle flare, as he said, but he's also adding a small piece of roof over a door. Is there a change? A little bit of a change to the existing sort of door hood over the garage door. Pretty minor. Any comments on this one?
I don't have any issues.
Okay, Lucy's shaking her head. I think we're okay with this one. Moving on.
Cool. No concerns for them. Okay.
Right.
Perfect.
19 Union Street.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Jack.
So this is, as you know, an historic structure that was built in 1803, and they put a lovely glass sunroom at the rear of the property. So what we would like to do is remove that habitable space and turn it into an outside patio. What we want to do is have climbing roses go all around the 3 sides, or 2.5 sides, as you can see in the top left part of the site plan, and now on the bottom of the page. And the other part we want to do is a lot of the paint colors, the yellow that's on there, would like to remove that. And if you go back to the, I think it's 1895 photo way at the end, we want to bring back some of the darker colors that were there, the grays, darker grays. So at this sheet right here, you can see that, you know, we're going to do all the fenestration colors would be it's not a dark green, it's like a black green kind of color tone to it. So that's called the Deep Secret. Then all the interior, exterior trim, we'd like to turn to a light, very light gray called Winter Solstice. And the clapboard, what we want to do is even a lighter gray than that. It's really kind of tying the whole house in. Right now, you'll see the yellow, it's just not very friendly, I don't think. And to the left, what you can see is a new proposed arbor. And that was drawn from inspiration drawn from a pergola doorway, gate that was already on the property way back in the 1800s. So what we want to do is bring that back along with a batten fence. And what we'll probably do is, and I'm not really showing this, but right at the curvature of the arbor would probably would be a line of privet. And just to give a little bit of privacy and a little drama for when someone goes walking into that back gate. And you can see from the distance there, from the arbor to the new patio, it's set way back. It's set into the grade. And that's what we'd like to do. Thank you very much.
So does this have is this a solid roof or an open structure like framing?
So so there would be a roof sheathing over that, and yes, would probably be having exposed rafters from the interior. But now this would be, either a copper roof or, at worst case, we would go back to a wooden roof. But the reason I went with a copper roof is because all of the vegetation is so low that just preserving and trying to keep it as long as possible, having, the dripping of the sap on the trees. And that photo is great for showing the great little gateway that was on the property. But that's why we went with a copper roof, just to kind of get some longevity within this area from all the falling leaves, etc.
Okay.
Oops, sorry.
Who wants to go on this one? Megan. How about you?
Could you pass me for the moment, please?
Brooke, your hand's up. Go.
Yeah, I'll start. My first impression is I like it. I think it's kind of cool. I think that it might have been something that would have been done in the Victorian era, as just an addition to an existing structure, just like a little garden feature. I definitely appreciate the inspiration that you had, and I could see where maybe an owner at the time might have said, "Oh wow, the Victorian period. Let's do this fun little bow-shaped arbor and put in a little trellised structure in the back, and then you move on through time." So honestly, I like it. I think it works.
Okay, thanks, Brooke. Lucy? You're muted, Lucy.
I think it looks too Victorian or English. I do like the idea of reincorporating the archway. However, I think that your design, the archway is too wide. There's one behind the Hadwin house entering into the garden, which I believe is narrower. I think this one is much too wide for a residential house on a working man's street. It's more of almost the size of the iron ones in front of the Athenaeum. But that's all I have to say.
Thanks. Angus?
Yeah, it's funny in the photograph. It's like it's aberrant. It doesn't look like it fits. But when you apply the storyline that Brooke suggested, then it all starts to make sense that this was a later addition, and that the gate is or the arbor is part of that. I agree with Lucy's point that the arbor is a wider version of what was originally there, and I think it would look more appropriate if it were a bit narrower in its overall width. But in general, I like the addition.
Okay, I guess I'm going to stand alone on this one. This is an addition to this really old Quaker house. I mean, to me, I think it's cool, but to me, it feels really out of place as an attached addition. I think if maybe this were a freestanding structure, like you might see up above on the cliff, there's some gazebo type structures up there. I could conceivably buy into it, or maybe that was pulled a little bit away and connected maybe a little bit more like a connection rather than slammed up against the side of the wall. To me, it just it's an addition on an old house, and it just doesn't speak to the old house at all. It's entirely different. And I don't know, I wish I could feel better about it. The openings, I'd like to see a little more relevance to the, Joe, did you, in terms of the specific design, do you have other examples locally of those windows and the lattice, that kind of a reference?
So they're just a negative, but it wasn't until after that, like you're saying, the pyramidal freestanding structure up on top of the hill. I think that's at the Erickson's house, right on the top of Orange Street. But I believe there was lattice there, and the reason for the voids was because we're going to do the climbing roses, that we just thought we should have some light being able to come in. But at the same time, I think that the Onassis, and I've spoken to them right next door there in the Gambrel at 21 Union Street. And, they're very excited to see the sunroom go away. They've looked at the drawing and they didn't have a problem. But it was also to give a sense of privacy where we're taking a habitable space and making more of an outside function. So in some ways it will get used less, but sometimes I think they just want the privacy, and that's why we did the voids. But I can look into that. I can see if I could find something similar, but I will go look at the Hadwin House gate, and maybe what I could do is, instead of having 2 3-foot wide gates, maybe go to 2.5 or 30 inches. Because I think that's where, a lot of my clients will come in and out, because the kitchen's in the back. And I think we'll be walking in from town, that's the best way to access the house. So I'll look at that. So thank you for your comments.
Is there any exterior door, or is this a sort of a dead end room?
Is there what?
Like a door to get out of this thing to the yard, or am I missing something? Is there a way to get out of it?
Out of the pergola or out of the portico? What do you?
The pergola in the back. I see a lot of lattice walls. Is there a?
Oh, so yes, there will be. So right where the mouse has come down just slightly, and you can see there's just a void. Otherwise, it's 2.5 walls. That would be the only place it'd come out. So the void you can see, if you're looking at from Union Street, is the void that's beyond. So that would just be wide open. There'd be no lattice work or anything. It would be a 6-foot wide opening. And that kind of dictated the width of the gate. I was just matching that slightly.
I'm trying to see what is the wall that this is interfacing with? Is it a wall?
So it's a pre-existing non-conformity. It's a 24-inch high poured concrete retaining wall. So what we're going to do is come off of that existing structure with new 6x6 post. That's basically what our stat is. But that's the other part of it, is if you look from the west elevation and the south elevation, it's into the grade. It's sunken down.
Are you trying to use existing foundation? Is that part of this?
Yeah, that's we don't want it to cause too much disturbance. And if you go to the site plan, where Holly, if you could please go to the site plan, you'll see how it encroaches into the setbacks. A little bit more. There you go. So the first red line is my 5-foot setback, and the next line is 1 foot in. So that'd be my 6-foot line, just in case. So
well over that.
yeah. So, but that two-sided masonry wall we're going to keep, and the Pella sunroom will remove, and that awkward gable, that screen part of the sunroom will be removed as well. So the whole massing is going to get lower in a lot of ways. But we've just thought this was the best use and way to bring that space, make it functional.
Yeah, you're not getting a lot of resistance from anybody but me, it sounds like. And, I think what would make me feel a little bit more comfortable about this is if you could, and this is a bit of a change, but narrow it down maybe from that view from the street side. So, and then connect it to the house rather than having it, interface in the corner of it. So it's bumping into the corner of the house, just so it feels like it's almost a detached structure that was sort of, connected a little bit.
Okay.
The rest of the board may not be as concerned about that as I am, but
Yeah, and that's why I have that cricket as low as possible. It's trying to keep it functioning, but I agree with you, Mickey. There was a way that if we had a larger lot, that'd be great. But I was just trying to make it not freestanding because it's not really going to happen, but give a sense of the freestanding nature of it.
Yep.
Since the conversation has gone on, now I'm understanding how that works. It's a little bit deceptive looking at that east view from the street. It looks like that's a continuous wall along the east side with two openings in it, two windows, not a wall and a window and a doorway in the proposed structure. Am I reading that right? That's an opening on the gate where the gate is, that's open to.
Yeah, that allows, there's two gates that would be there that allows you to get into that back.
Well, I mean,
It's a little courtyard, and then to the right-hand side, that's all opened.
So there's a post in the middle of the structure, but on the left side, there's wall, and on the right side, it's open.
Yes, so.
Yeah.
I believe I did I not give you so Holly, please, can you go to AP 1.1? It's down in the packet.
The floor plan?
No, it's a perspective, and I believe it will help give, it helps break it up, show it in 3D massing. There you go. Well, maybe not. It went back one. So you can see there to the left of the gate, there'll be a lower section, there'll be lattice, but there'll be a knee wall like structure, if you will, that will break it in a line with the two concrete walls. But where that mouse is in, if you're looking through the gate, you could see the concrete wall beyond. We're going to put some finish on there, but yes, thank you. That rectangular shape is open.
I think unless you end up having the same conversation, that is easily missed detail. And I think that makes a difference in how it feels from the street. I like the idea of it being solid, but if there's an opening there, I would rather it be an opening that's in the middle and the lattice and half walls on either side of it. That's when it starts to feel like, it's not the Victorian edition. Later on, it seems more modern pool shelter, half open, half not. I think it loses its appearance of authenticity from the street with that particular configuration.
So one thing, sorry, to the chair. So the one thing that my client is going to do is she loves gardening. And so I think what she wants to do is create a small little pathway and then take that area in front of that lattice work and add more planting. She really wants to, her way to decompress is to be in a garden. And so that's something that this space is going to, the amount of hardscaping that's there now is going to be reduced, I would say, by half, but it's not a detail that I've really worked on with hers yet. And she's hopefully coming down in the next couple of weeks, and we'll kind of flesh out that design, massage a little bit more. But right now we've just basically kept to the structures. So, but I hear you, I can talk to her about that as well.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Angus on that. I think that that opening would be more successful if it were centered in that elevation with some lattice on either side of it. But Brooke or Lucy, do you have anything else to say, or even Angus?
I have one last thing, and that is that I appreciate the low cricket, and that this is looking more like something that is separate from the building, because it's clearly in every design aspect separate from the building. So I think that was an important move to make.
Thank you.
I have no other concerns to add. I think it would look nice with a centered opening. Maybe we can encourage the HDC to approve it as long as it's vegetated in perpetuity with roses.
My client would like that.
All right, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Brooke. Lucy, you're done? Yep. Okay, you're good, Joe. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Joe.
Holly, are we running out of time?
7 minutes.
Yes, sir, we are. We still have quite a few left. Looks like we got the next page. At least you finished the first page. Yeah.
Is the meeting tonight? Holly, is the meeting tonight?
So the way that works is this evening, it will be the items that were not continued. We will, it depends on how far we get. I doubt they'll get to all of these.
Yeah.
And of course, these applications are mixed in with all the other applications that you all don't see. So.
True. Well, I guess, I'm wondering if they don't, if we can't finish today and they don't get to them, you could put it on our schedule for next week. Add to what we get after that. But
that has happened before. So yes, we can do that.
Does anybody see anything on the agenda they want to address in the short time?
Yes, the next one.
Okay, good. Which is 1 Cliff Lane. It's a big long picket fence. A little bit out of town. Lucy, did you want to make a comment on that?
Yes, there are 2 photographs that, Holly, if you could please bring those up. The proposal is for 100 feet of white picket fence. This area farther up on Cliff Road, the last white picket fence on that side of the road is at number 37. In the immediate area to this house, there is 1 picket fence that is painted white. However, it possibly that was never approved. There are photographs that you can see that this would be quite an expanse. I kind of look at this as urban creep. Holly, are you working on? Yeah.
Lucy, are you saying that this is uncharacteristics of its neighbors, that it's not fitting in?
Yes, the last white picket fence is at number 37, and this is way up at like close to 90 Cliff Road.
That was my initial reaction too. This feels a little bit too suburban for this far out of town. I think of different style, a natural fence, probably even a split rail fence would be, they have to have something more appropriate.
Natural.
Yeah, I think it just should be vegetated, and maybe you have a little run of fence But
They do have a white gate there, but a lot of the immediate neighbors do have split rail.
Yeah.
don't like it.
Holly, you
Much.
working on this photo? Here we go. Existing fence, gate, and hedge. I went on Street View and looked at this, and you can, and I totally agree with what Lucy is saying. There just doesn't seem to be, except across the street, a short one that's, I don't know, it doesn't, that doesn't seem to fit in either. There's, but it's pretty far out of town, in my feeling, to have a white picket fence. Anybody else want to comment on this one?
Nothing further.
I agree.
Okay. Good, thanks.
Come on, we can get in a few more.
Not appropriate. Got it. All
Uncharacteristic of the neighborhood.
right, you just want to go to the next one?
Sure.
7 East Lincoln.
Holly, did they get approval to demo the building on this site?
I do not recall that. I do not know. Would be helpful to know. Let's see, does he annotate that in here? Oh. Just existing dwelling footprint. I'm not aware that that would also be a question of mine as well.
I see Matt's name. Is he here?
I guess not. I haven't had a chance to look at this one till just now.
Neither have I.
I've got some general comments.
Go ahead, Brooke.
Sure. It is, I mean, it's a really cool looking building. I'll just start there. I feel like just based on the neighbors, it might be a little bit too big, you know, for what's around it, but, you know, it's still an attractive structure. So, I think totally appropriate for that part of the world.
I think the scale and the detail is a departure from at least the shots that we're getting of the street in this application. With that being said, it's almost more like the houses on Easton, or not exactly on this street, but in the neighborhood, it looks appropriate. So maybe this is where this street's headed with second generation.
I think you're both right. I think the street does have smaller buildings. I'm looking on Street View to see the neighborhood, and there's some 2-story, or not 2-story, but 1.5-story gable-y buildings across the street. Not quite of this, probably not quite the same height or width. You know, the mass feels a little bit smaller, but it's hard to tell on this view. I like the building. I think it's an attractive building. Haven't really studied the details, but you know, just I guess a little bit of a concern on the overall scale of it, but maybe we are headed that way. What what is East Lincoln going to look like in the future?
If it looked like this, I'd be okay.
I agree.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's a lot of I think mid-50s that's still there that could be rethought.
Yeah, it's going to change. So let's looking at the details. I guess looking at the front view, Holly, on the south elevation, there's some pretty big side lights on the front door. I'm not sure I'm keen on those. I'm not sure I'd be keen on any side lights on a door on the street. Seems a little formal for this neighborhood to have the door with side lights.
I agree.
There was another west, where's west? That's at the back. No, that's the side. A lot of French doors on the west elevation. That's probably visible, although I can't say for sure. What else?
Does look like there's going to be a garage
Okay.
on the site plan anyway. Shows
Yeah,
it.
if you look at the site plan, Mickey, it looks like the French doors that are actually like accordion are all in that back nook, so probably not visible.
Oh, I see. So pretty far in. Yep, you're right. There's nothing really behind East Lincoln.
I agree with the side light comment, though.
Okay. And then there's another couple small windows up on the gable end. I lost that. I was on the north back of the house again, probably not terribly visible.
I'd like to add one small thing. It says SDL. I'd like them to be wood SDL, no Anderson SDL, no vinyl clad SDL.
Good.
Here.
So wood SDLs and no side lights on the front door.
And AC units,
AC units.
Mr. Chair, just to give you an idea, looking at tonight's agenda, it's mostly old business. So there'll be a whole bunch of consent conditions. And then we have 22 items that were carried over for old business from last week. So I don't even know if we're going to be able to get to tonight's new business.
Okay.
And with that said, looks like quite a few even to about item 10 under new business, you've already got to those items, it looks like. That includes 39 Fair, 10 Cherry. Oh, no, you didn't get to 10 Cherry yet. So yeah, I mean, I think having it on next week's agenda is fine, and I can email Kadeem to add that to it. That means we just don't know how long next week's agenda will be for you all, with having, these additional items on the agenda for next week under new business, and then next week will be old. A lot of stuff going on.
Well, let's take that risk of a long agenda next week. We're gonna have to close this. Do we have any more comments on this particular one?
just the air conditioning units.
Yep, got that. Okay, I mean, any concern about the roof block? It's got a really tall skirt on it. Why is that? Oh, it's a really wide roof block, that's why. How about if they narrow down the roof block? The skirt is really tall.
Yeah, and I thought that you're supposed to avoid skirts going down onto hip roofs. Not hip roofs, but dormer roofs.
Yeah, I think that's been an issue in the past. It's something that never bothered me a whole lot as much as other people, but it is something that they have paid attention to.
I think it's the straddling that looks weird.
Yeah.
You know, part of it on the gable and part of it on the shed.
I think it could be made narrower for sure.
I think that helps.
Yeah. They won't get it off that shed, but it'll get it further away from it.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's an angle you don't see head on, that west elevation. So that might mitigate it a little bit. 6/1s, that seems appropriate. Shutters, I like the shutters. Generally an interesting building. It's actually a flush dormer. The two side dormers are flush dormers.
The way the shadowing works on the front gable, it looks like there's a bit of an overhang. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, I think there is. It's not really clear what that is.
I like it.
Yeah,
I mean,
don't know
I think that it adds character to it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that upper window has a curved, that's curved shingles back
right.
to the fixed window. And there's a little bit of a soffit over that. And then below that, there's another soffit that exists within the rake overhang. So very, very bungalow-esque.
And you don't see that terribly often ever here. Are we okay with that?
Yeah, I think that it works well in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go right around the corner on Wall Street, you got those bungalows. There's 2 or 3 of them that are very classic style, stylized bungalows. This might be a little bit more than that, but not much.
Yeah. I'm looking at again at those dormers to see if they're flush or not. And, I think, especially on the east elevation, there might be a slight setback, maybe 6 inches from the face of the sidewall below it. I wouldn't mind seeing that dormer pushed back a little further to shorten the height of that wall, less shingles below the windows, and just a little bit less massive.
And more roof.
And what?
More roof.
Yeah.
More gable, you mean?
Yeah, more roof below it, less roof of it. So I'd suggest pushing that shed dormer, maybe both of them on each side, into it's supposed to be a full foot in, and it's definitely not that.
Yeah. I'd say push it in a foot. It's a pretty big dormer.
Yeah. Okay.
What does everybody think of the shutters being on the front, being white?
I'd like it to be a different color.
Is it all trim white?
Lucy?
Yes,
So the trim is white, but are the shutters white too?
it looked like that the shutters are going to be white.
It's not called out.
No,
Yeah, I don't mind the trim white, but I agree the shutters. I'd rather see the shutters be painted something different.
and the detail of the shutters too. I'm not sure about that.
That doesn't bother me. But I've seen they have paneled shutters, I think, in that area, I think. Anybody else on that one?
What's the front door color?
Doesn't say.
Door's white.
Yeah, different color.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it were a blue or some other kind of thing, I think
Or
it would be a good opportunity for the shutters to join in.
Agreed.
All right, so far I have wood SDLs, no side lights on the front door. Where are the AC units? Narrower roof walk for a shorter skirt. Push the side dormers in a foot, and the shutters and the door, front door to be not white.
Great.
I'd like to make a motion to approve comments as they are, or as far as we got.
And can you add to that, Angus, that we're going to review the rest of the agenda next meeting?
With the rest to be continued at our next meeting.
Thank you. Second?
Second,
Thanks, Lucy. All those in favor, Lucy,
aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Angus,
Aye.
I'm in favor. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Holly.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Vicky.
Holly.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Just need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, did we not do
So
that?
moved.
Second,
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor, Lucy,
aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Angus,
Aye.
aye. Bye, everybody.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.